Pardon the sniffs in advance. It's kind of the only thing that I have this time. Last time I couldn't see, right? This time it's a ridiculous amount of mucus, but I'll try my best to get through everything, no problem. All right, so welcome back. You guys got your special occasion speeches back. That's your feedback there. Those grades were uploaded to Brightspace pretty much same day. There's only like 10 of y'all. So it was actually really easy to get through your grades. And I had a car service appointment that day, so it worked out. I had to wait 2 hours anyway, right? So today we're going to talk about chapters 12 and 13. If you have any questions about those, feel free to see me after class and let me know. I'm also going to talk about your informative speech. And then, of course, I'll tell you what your homework is and then answer any questions you guys have. Sound good?
Good.
Work. Let's get into chapter 12. Yes, chapter 12 is about using language, especially figurative language. All right? This is a public speaking class, so of course, when you're writing speeches, it's about what you are writing. This is about the content that I'm expecting you to be able to include when it comes to preparing all of your speeches and things. All right? Language helps create our sense of reality by giving meaning to experiences. Do you guys remember the first quote that we talked about, like day 2? When we talked about chapters 1 and 3, there was a quote by Aristotle. We spent like 20 minutes talking about what you guys thought that it meant. You guys remember kind of the air of that quote, kind of what the content of that quote gave?
Yeah.
I think it was like a writer sees.
Different class.
Was it if you are speaking about something you can't explain, why speak about it?
Yes. One who forms a judgment on anything but cannot explain it clearly might as well have never thought on the subject at all, right? Coming back to language, language is about the system of words that we use to give meaning to just about everything, because it's about our ability to communicate clearly to other people what we are going through, what we believe, what we think, our opinions, what we regard as fact, what we regard as fair, what we regard as fun. All of those things, we use language to help create that sense of reality. If you can't speak on it, is it even real? What do you think?
If you can't speak on it, doesn't mean that it isn't real. It's just you haven't learned about it.
Or found the words to do so. So let's talk about some words. Words mean things. Words mean things. Words are symbols that we assign to the various entities, aspects, objects, events, experiences, beliefs, blah, 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 in reality, period. There are 2 types of meaning that words can have. The first is the denotative meaning. That's the dictionary definition, exactly what it was meant to be, exactly what it means, straight, strict, just like that. But as humans, everything isn't just about logic. Everything isn't just about fact. It's not just about observation. It's also sometimes about feeling. Sometimes it's about the mood. Sometimes it's about the environment, the context. And that's when you get into connotative definitions. Those are the suggestive meanings, kind of the emotional power of a word, or the understated or unspoken-ish meaning of a word, or behind a word. Think of it kind of as like the subtext of the words, okay? What's going on, Twitch? How y'all doing? Doing well. Boom, boom, bam. For example, same denotation, different connotations. Quiet versus silent. What do they both mean?
Absence of sound.
Absence of sound. Which one has a stronger connotation? Silent. Because quiet implies that you can hear a few things, maybe some hums, some drum-drums, some dum-dums, right? But silent implies that you can hear a rat peeing on cotton. That's a rap reference for anybody who didn't catch it. All right? So, keeping those things in mind, I recommend you tap into your thesaurus. Find out some different ways to say different things. Find out the different connotations based on the synonyms of these words. And then look at those synonyms, denotations, to see how those words may differ, even though they may refer to the same thing. One may have a stronger connotation or a stronger contextual power depending on the circumstance or the subject material that you're speaking on or writing on, because everything isn't about speaking. Sometimes you're writing. It's all communication. It's all rock and roll. All right? But I do suggest for these speeches, you guys have 2 more to give in class, keep things familiar. Don't experiment on Thanksgiving. Experiment at home, figure it out, and then bring the masterpiece back. You feel me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. We're also going to suggest that you use more concrete words than abstract words. Our concrete words are the words that are more tangible or describe more tangible things, things that are more visible, things that are more relatable. All right? These are your more specific words, more descriptive, as opposed to your abstract words, which are words that kind of talk about or refer to vaguer, more abstract ideas and concepts and intangible things. All right? Human being, living thing, man, woman, organism, all concrete, all rather tangible. Life, ridiculously abstract. Make sense? Understand the difference? Wonderful. I'm also going to suggest that you avoid clutter when you write for me. Save the fluff. Don't overdo it with your descriptions, right? In 1942, when the fire broke out in the building, there was a fire that happened in 1942. Oh my God. No word count, no page count. You have time limits, but you can change your delivery style if you have less words to say to extend yourself throughout the duration and hit that time limit. You do not have to fill your speech with fluff. And you think you have too much to say, I suggest cutting stuff out because speaking faster makes you nervous faster because you give yourself less time to think in between sentences, in between phrases. Y'all heard me trip up just like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I do this. So relax, avoid the clutter, keep things familiar. But I am going to require that you employ figurative language in your next two speeches. When it comes to communication class, figurative language has two umbrellas. You have imagery, and then you have rhythm things. In English class, there are lots of literary elements, metaphors, similes, alliterations, assonance, consonants, allusions, all of those things. So many different things. All those things count because I know them and I recognize them. It's fine. Use them in your speech out here. You get the points. But we are going to talk about imagery, which is talking about vivid language that creates images in listeners' minds. And we're going to talk about rhythm, which is the pattern of sound that you're going to create using your diction and your syntax. Do you guys know what those two words mean? Diction, anybody?
Words.
Word choice. What about syntax?
Structure. Every sentences.
Word order, absolutely. Word choice versus word order. All right? Let's get into it. Why is this taskbar up here? I hate when they do that. You guys can see this?
Yeah.
Let me get a volunteer. Somebody describe this image for me, please.
A sunset on snowy mountains.
Period. Close your eyes. A sunset on snowy mountains.
See it?
You see this exact image, right? Because you've looked at it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Somebody describe the image for me.
The pier side view showing snowy mountains at dusk.
Pierside view, snowy mountains at dusk. Dusk, I'm seeing a darker sky. I see two mountains, they're both white. Pier side, I'm looking at the side of some wood. That's all I got. Maybe a little piece of a sun somewhere behind the mountains.
Can I go for it again?
Please.
Okay. The sun setting through a cloudy sky over snow-covered mountains at the tip of a lake with a pier.
Where's the pier?
Right-hand side.
Okay, and what's in the lake?
Water.
Well, duh. That's usually what lakes are made of, right? Can you see anything in the water? What does the water look like? Is the water clear? Is the water
reflects
blue?
the sunset colors.
What are the sunset colors?
Coral,
Ooh, okay.
a dark, a kind of like lighter blue because it's going into dusk,
Uh-huh.
and I think that mostly describes it because coral is the mix of pink and red.
The pink, orange, red kind of thing. Okay, cool. I like that. Can anybody do better? That's right. Points. Imagery is about the use of multiple descriptive and concrete words to create as vivid, lively, visual, whatever, visible, right, image in your listeners' minds as possible. That's done by mixing the different parts of speech that will allow you to do so. So let's go back to English class for a second. You have your nouns. Hi. You have your nouns. Those are our words that describe people, places, things, ideas, all of our entity words, the things that exist in life, whether they are tangible or intangible. We use nouns to describe them. Verbs are our action words, things that are happening, the events, the actions in life. We use our verbs to describe those. Amid a cloudy sunset, obviously in the evening, you can see the warm and cool colors, the warm colors of the sunset and the cool colors of the snowy mountain range in the background, and the reflective, rippling waves of the lake in the foreground clashing with each other to create a mix of corals, purples, oranges, and reds, reflecting off the sky and into the water, or I guess off the water from the sky, right? Only interrupted on the right-hand side by a rustic-looking pier or boardwalk, resting easily and reflecting on that side of the water, right? Get your verbs in there too. Things, do things. Adjectives are our words that describe or inform our nouns, right? It was a red sky. They are cool and warm colors, right? And our adverbs are special because not only do they describe or inform verbs, like most people know that they do, right? They also can describe or inform adjectives and other adverbs. So they're particularly useful for really adding that extra image to your sentences. Usually your words that end in ly, those are your adverbs. They do a lot of work. He ran really quickly. Adverb, right?
Yeah.
Feel me? Then you have your similes and your metaphors. What's the difference between a simile and a metaphor?
A simile uses like or as, and a metaphor does not.
Can't hear you at all.
A simile uses the words like or as, and a metaphor does not.
Absolutely. That like or as makes the similes more explicit and your metaphors more implicit. Metaphors, cooler than the other side of the pillow. Right? Similes, hot as hell. Real quick, real explicit. Right? The point is that you're comparing two different things that have something in common every time. Right? I'm cool. The other side of the pillow is cool. We both cool. I'm cool like the other side of the pillow. Simile also kind of can be a metaphor depending on what you use. Right? Your cliches are your trite or overused expressions. Sometimes they help, sometimes they hinder. Depends on the context, depends on how well you deliver. Ooh. Right? Yeah, no, bars, right? Your metaphors can be simple, right? Sandy Cheek style. She was huge for a metaphor, right? Or they can be extended, and you can use a metaphor as an extended example to explain a point or tell a story to really make something hit home for your listeners. All of these are still ways to create those images in your listeners' minds. Those images will help create more understanding of the subject matter that you're speaking on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All good?
Yep.
Let's talk about rhythm. Rhythm is about the sounds. It's about your rate of speech, your use of pauses, the way that you breathe. And sometimes it's about the words that you choose and how they sound one after the other. Peter Piper picked a pepper, right? We call that alliteration. We're going to get to that in a second. The point of using rhythm is to enhance meaning on certain parts of your sentences or certain sections of your paragraphs. All right? Parallelism. One thing you're going to look for is a similar arrangement of a series of related phrases. Think wedding vows, like the wedding vows, not the ones that you write, like the real ones. For better or for worse, for rich or for poor, in sickness and in health, and this and in that. That's parallelism because they all are structured the same, similarly, if not exactly the same. All right, you guys know the difference between similar and congruent from geometry, right? Yeah, similar is like, oh yeah, like the same is. Congruent is like, no, they're the same, twins. Feel me? All right. Repetition. Repetition is your congruence, and parallelism is your similarity. All right. Repetition is that same word or set of words at the beginning or end of each phrase or sentence, and you're saying the same things. These two usually create each other. Brains like to shortcut. That's just what we do. It happens. It's very rare that you will see them separately. All right? It usually results in parallelism, like I said, but this is about the clauses or sentences being one after the other. All right? Color purple. You is kind, you is smart, you is important, right? Is that it? Did I mess up? Did I butcher that?
That was the help.
That was the help? Yeah, my bad. It sure was. That was the help. Oh, she made her eat the pie made of,
Yes,
oh
she
my
did.
God. Yes. That was that. Whoops, my bad. Repetition. That also resulted in parallelism. It's the same thing at the beginnings. Now they are structured similarly. Same beginning, one word. Same beginning, one word. Same beginning, one word. You see how that happens? Word. It's rhythmic. Rhythm also allows things to be retained in memory. That's why song lyrics are easier to remember than historical facts. And it's why mnemonics and nursery rhymes work for children. It's about the rhythm. All right? Alliteration also creates rhythm. It's when you repeat that same initial letter or blend sound at the beginning of words, phrases that are close to each other or within the same sentence. Two types of alliteration. When you use consonants, you create consonants. When you just use vowel sounds, you create assonants. They're both still alliterations. Peter Piper picked a pepper, consonants, still an alliteration. I can't remember any of the tongue twisters that are all vowels, but they exist. I, five islands, something like that. I don't know. Assonants. All right? Your antithesis is probably your hardest one. It's probably the newest to you. It's when you juxtapose two contrasting ideas, usually in a parallel structure. Again, human shortcut, the brain does its things automatically. Right? Any JFK quote, he was huge for doing antithesis. His most popular quote being, of course, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That's antithesis. You got two opposing ideas, parallel structure, but just like that. It's like putting black next to white so that the black looks darker and the white looks brighter. All right? A little tougher to spot, a little tougher to create, but when it works, it works. That JFK quote is how many years old? Like, please. People are still using it to this day. Wrongly, but, still using it. Because it's memorable. And that's the point here. Your imagery is for understanding. It's to make examples more poignant. All right? More potent. Your rhythm is to help commit those examples to memory. So that your audience leaves remembering and understanding what you've just spent however many minutes talking about. You understand how the combination works? Yeah. Any questions about the techniques for creating either of the two? No. Wonderful. Using appropriate language is super important because the norms of what is appropriate change with the context of your situation. Remember we talked about situational audience analysis last week? Mm-hmm. We talked about context in week 1 and how it informs any communication situation. Still the same thing here. So when you're choosing which aspects of language you want to include in your speech, remember to be appropriate to the occasion. A coach can do a pep talk in the locker room and change that pep talk to make it more appropriate linguistically for the awards banquet, and it'd be the exact same subject matter. Locker room, it's just us, it's me, these are my players, these are like my kids, I can talk to them however I want. And they're gonna get it, because we have a relationship. But when we dress up and we're in front of their parents and my bosses and the administrators and the other coaches, should probably go for something a little bit more formal, structured, and appropriate. Make sense?
Yes.
Wonderful. You also want to be appropriate to the audience. Remember we talked about their dispositions to your topic. What do they know already? Do they have to know something already to understand what you're going to talk about? Your balance of jargon versus layman's terms is going to be quintessential to your success in the informative speech specifically, especially if you guys choose more technical topics. All right? Your jargon consists of the terms that are specific to that subject material or to that subject matter, right? There are theater terms that only theater nerds will know. There are band terms that only band geeks will know. There are video game terms and acronyms especially that only gamers would recognize. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You have to explain those things in layman's terms, words that anybody, whether they're in that world or not, would be able to use to understand those terms. Remember, it's your job to do the work for the audience. Don't leave them with any cognitive load. Don't give them 2 + 2 and then leave them and be like, right? Say that it's 4. You come to the conclusion so that your audience does not have to jump to 1. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to tell you that 2 plus 2 is fish. All right? You also want to be inclusive, not offensive. This is the real PC. It's not about being politically correct for real, for real. It's about making sure that your audience can actually hear and retain and receive what you are saying. Don't piss these people off. Look around the room. Be respectful. Your classmates are your audience. We're recording your speeches. I'm not showing them to anybody or anything like that. But if you decide to, you want to make sure that whoever is hearing your speech will be able to receive it, no problem. Okay?
Okay.
Wonderful. You also want to be appropriate to the topic. Remember your desired response. As you choose your words, as you choose what order you want to put your sentences in, as you choose what order you want to put your paragraphs in after they're written, or while you're writing, because I would not reorder paragraphs afterwards, unless I give you that feedback on your outline, which you guys will have to do for both speeches, right? Remember what you want your audience to get out of this speech. What do you want them having walked away, having learned, believed, whatever? Keep that foremost in mind as you choose your words and choose them wisely. Save the fluff so that the mission does not get lost, but make it clear and concise enough that they will understand and be able to track you throughout the whole speech. You never want to lose them, okay? Last but not least, of course, you have to be appropriate to yourself. Be you, use your voice, don't use mine. Don't use Obama's, don't use Bill Clinton's. It's your voice. Use words that you're familiar with, even if that means you've learned them over the course of this class, that's okay. We talk about vocabulary here every now and then. All right? Flow in the way that you know you sound good, right? Make sure you breathe, relax, and pick something that you actually care to talk about. It'll make it so much easier when you're up here. All right? Make sense?
Yes.
Any questions about appropriateness? Wonderful. Language. Anything about it? Words. They mean stuff. Use them correctly. Google the word. Google the word. If you have to second guess yourself for half a second, look it up. No harm, no foul. All right? I can tell you how many times I use that with my iPhone messages. I'll type a big word that I know that I learned in like high school or something. I'm just like, let me make sure I'm using this right. Double tap, scroll over, look up. Okay, word. Yeah, I'm good. You effervescent. You know what I'm saying? All right, word. Chapter 13 is about delivery. Because it's not only what you say, it's how you say it. This is the How to Be a Good Speaker lecture. So this is definitely where we want to pay attention. Speech delivery is a matter of nonverbal communication. How much of communication is nonverbal? Do you guys remember? Where'd y'all get that? 70 to 80. I would argue 70 before I argued 80. Good delivery conveys the speaker's ideas clearly, interestingly, and without distracting the audience. Nothing you do during the delivery of your speech should distract your audience from understanding and keeping track of the points that you are making as a speaker. What does this mean? Yeah, that's right. There are 4 methods of delivery that your book talks about. You're only going to do one in this class because you've already done one and we're over that. Manuscript delivery, what do you guys think that means?
The way that you deliver, like you say, like structure, grammar structure.
I was just gonna say reading from notes or like having it written down somewhere.
Word for word. This is your teleprompter. All right, your news anchors, they're just reading straight up, word for word, the whole sentence. If you have the entire speech written, you won't do that in here. If you have the entire speech written, line by line, and you can just read it straight out, you're reading manuscript style, delivering manuscript style, excuse me. Memory, self-explanatory. You have the entire thing memorized, no notes, no cards, no teleprompter, no nothing. Bam. Impromptu. What does that mean?
Spontaneous.
Yeah.
You made it up on the spot.
Spontaneous on the spot, absolutely. Made it up on the spot, yeah, interesting. Extemporaneous. That's the speaking style that we're going to use in here. You guys already did it for your first speech, except you. You memorized yours. Everybody spoke extemporaneously. All right? Extemporaneous style delivery is super impressive because of the precision that it requires as a speaker. When you're reading manuscript, or speaking from memory impromptu, no one really is going to be able to tell if you mess up or anything like that but you, which is usually the case. That's why positive nervousness is a thing, right? Channel the energy, blah, 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 right? But when you're speaking extemporaneously and all you have is speaker notes, what it does is it feigns this conversational quality with the audience because it gives you room to engage and respond to feedback. Because you're not sticking to a script and you're not frantically panicking because you're speaking impromptu and making things up on the spot. What happens is you have a level of preparation there and hopefully a few rounds of practice under your belt. So you've sat comfortably enough with the information that you're going to convey, whether that's for entertainment purposes, informative purposes, persuasive purposes, whatever. You've sat with the content long enough that you're going to feign spontaneity with your audience. You're gonna fake it. It's gonna look like you're coming up with stuff on the spot. When all you're really doing is taking your main ideas from your speaker notes or from your presentation and filling in the rest of the sentence. Because you can build a sentence if you have an idea. You guys watch me do it every day. I build stories off of these speaker notes. Okay? It's impressive because of that rehearsal aspect. If you don't practice, it doesn't come off as impressively. Because people will be able to tell that you have not sat with the information long enough to actually commit it to memory. You won't sound as competent or as confident as you could. Does that make sense? Practice doesn't even make perfect. It makes progress. And that's all you need. Right? Thanks. Yeah. Aiming for perfect is a lofty goal. And if you don't meet it before speech time, you end up even more nervous. All you're aiming to do is to get good, or to get better if you feel you're good, all right? Or to be the best in the room if you're competitive. I was competitive, but I don't know about y'all. If I come 1500 class, I used to be like, ladies and gentlemen, today, like I was on. I used to, man, what? Me and my best friend, we was like, nah, we fighting for the A in this class. Ain't no way. Any questions about the 4 delivery styles? Wonderful. We're extemporaneous in here. It's about having your speaker notes and getting that conversational quality with the audience. All right? The only way to get good is to practice. The only way to get better is to practice. And the only way to be the best is to practice. All right? When it comes to delivery, we're going to talk about 2 different kind of categories of delivery techniques. The first is vocalics, when you're talking about all the things that you can do with your voice. Remember, speech delivery is a matter of nonverbal communication. So we're not talking about what you're saying. We're talking about how you're saying it. All right? First thing is volume. Your volume has an effect on your audience's understanding and obviously, whether they can hear you or not. I don't have a microphone, but we're in a relatively small room, so I get to project normally and it's fine. This is kind of my normal speaking voice. My friends be like, why are you yelling? Ooh, girl, my bad, I forgot y'all. Y'all can hear, my bad. I can't, right? But, depending on the occasion, depending on the sentence, depending on the topic, volume can have different effects on your audience. If you want things to seem more serious, you might go for the lower volume. Because it makes people tune in. They have to attend to hear you. For things that don't matter as much, or for things that are more exciting, more uplifting, more jovial, you go for the louder volume. You want to throw your voice at it, it bounces back. That's fun. I don't know why. It's psychological. Something about the reverberation of sound. I don't have it, but the book explains. You feel me?
Yeah.
Your next aspect is pitch. That's the highness and the lowness that you throw into your voice. It does not have to be that drastic at all. But what we will hear, heard that, is you emphasizing certain things. Or, especially for your special occasion speeches, you'll hear a mood shift. Or you'll feel a more somber environment, right? Usually from a combination of things. Rate of speech, which we're about to talk about. Rate of speech is how fast, how many words per minute, words per second you can get in, right? Also your volume. It's hard to be loud and somber. It's possible. But that somber feeling is a lot easier to do. Low pitch, quiet voice, slower rate of speech. That's that eulogy sound. As opposed to that rock concert sound, that hype man sound. When you get up a little bit higher in pitch, a little higher in volume, and definitely faster with that rate of speech, right?
Right.
You guys can hear the difference in those energies. You can feel the difference in the environments that those create. Remember, your words have power, especially how you say them. What you're looking to do is inflect, create little inflections to emphasize certain words, certain sentences, certain sections, totally dependent on you and your content. What you're looking to stray from is monotony, a constant pitch the entire time with no inflections, no changes, no emphases. You plateau out the entire way and you never adjust your pitch. You can adjust your volume, you can adjust your rate of speech even, but if you keep your tone the same, you're going to sound like a robot. I don't even think I did it right that time. I think I still inflected a little bit, just trying. I don't know, something natural, you know what I'm saying? All right, but yeah, we're not aiming for monotony, we're aiming to inflect. Little changes in pitch to emphasize certain words, sentences, sections. Make sense?
Yes.
Wonderful. Next is your rate of speech. You guys know that man over there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That man had titles. His speeches average one of the greatest orators of our time, or his time, I guess, right? His rate of speech fluctuated in his speeches, somewhere between 92 to his max was 145 words per minute. The average American is used to speaking at and listening to a rate of speech somewhere in the range of about 120 to 150 words per minute. So where does that put Dr. Martin Luther King? He's slower. He was a slower speaker because he was speaking on more serious aspects, more serious topics, and he was evangelical. He came from the church. They want you to hang on every word and every sentence until it's time for that little filler sentence that gets him to the next point. And then it's time for the next big thing. You hear it?
Yeah.
Very MLK coded. I have a dream boots. All right? I'm pretty sure these are numbers from I Have a Dream, actually. Your rate of speech directly correlates with your audience's ability to understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, especially if you are more or less articulate as a person. All right? If you know you have a speech impediment, if you know that you don't know how to say stuff, which is okay, right? First of all, look it up. Look up your little pronunciation. Click the little speaker button next to the definition. She'll read it for you. It's always a she, it's never a man, right? Because men can't read, all right? You guys are the best. Then try to go slower, just a little bit. I also recommend that you practice slower because what happens when you get up here and you're nervous? You rush. Super unintentional, super subconscious. But if you've practiced at half speed and then you get up here and you double that, what speed will you be speaking at? Normal pace. Feel me?
Yes.
Little practice things. Next up is pauses. On your rubric section you got back. Speech flow. What does it say? It say breaths versus fillers? And then what's the other thing under speech flow? Rate? Speed and rate. Speed and rate we just talked about. Your breaths versus fillers is going to be separated into two different categories for your next two speeches, or two different sub-criteria, I guess is the best way to put it. For your breaths versus fillers, we're avoiding those vocalized pauses. What do those sound like? Like. So, you know, and so. The record is broken, throw it away. Okay? Instead of those vocalized pauses, what do I suggest you do? Inhale through your nose. It's quieter. Yes, quieter. We went through this before. Quieter.
Mm-hmm.
All right? That was loud. It does not have to be that drastic. It's allergy season,
Mm-hmm.
right? But speaking is an exhale. And if you need a moment to collect your thoughts or to create the next sentence in your head after you looked at your speaker notes anyway, be comfortable with the little second and a half of silence. It's not even silence, it's just quiet. Right? Okay, thank you. All right? Leave the ums and ers alone. That's your breaths versus fillers. Every time I hear a filler, that's kind of like a knot in that category. Your pauses are talking about the commas, the semicolons, and the periods, and exclamation marks or question marks at the end of your clauses and sentences. Separate them. Get a new subject, get a new predicate. You don't want 3-line long sentences all throughout your speech. One, it's harder for you to remember. It's harder to turn that into speaker notes. And it's harder to get through and remember where the pauses are. It's harder to do in one breath. So split them up. Breathe. And make the pauses appropriate for the moments that you're trying to create. If you want some information to sit and you really want your audience to ponder something, that's a great place to put a heavier pause. And just let it rest. You hear it? Yes, no?
Yes.
Wonderful. Your goal is an appropriate vocal variety for your topic and the occasion at hand. Vocal variety is the combination of all of these things, all of those tools. Remember, I was talking earlier about creating that somber mood. It's not just about the pitch, it's also about the volume and the rate of speech. The jovial moods, again, the combination of pitch, rate of speech, volume, right? When you combine these things to create certain energies, to create certain moods, certain environments, that's how you achieve vocal variety. That's your goal for that section or that criteria section on your rubrics, all right? It's not just gonna say speech flow anymore, it's gonna say vocalics. It's gonna have all of these things on it, all right?
All right.
Your last one is correct pronunciation. It's not part of the vocal variety section, it's kind of its own thing, but we have to be able to understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. Samuel L. Jackson. All right? That's not to say that you have to articulate every single syllable of every single word. That's the physical production of those speech sounds. And dialect is taken into consideration. I can tell where you're from when you're talking. Shout out to all my Southerners, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have that little draw where we come off at the end of the sentence, or we'll trail off and skip a syllable or something. But as long as you're pronouncing the words right, and I can understand what word you're going for, you're fine. It's not about articulating every single syllable. Make sense?
Yes.
I understand gonna. You don't have to say going to. All right? Any questions about vocalics, the vocalic techniques?
No.
All good?
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
This, pronunciational thing, this would also apply to the appropriateness of your audience, right? Because like, let's say like we're talking here inside a class, I'm giving a speech, you're going to understand what we're saying when we say gonna,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But if I were like in a more formal place, perhaps I would not use these slangs, right?
You probably wouldn't. Yeah. I would definitely suggest straying from, well, dialectical and colloquial words, right? Like gonna, finna, those guys, right? Especially if you're not down south.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard, but I would stray from y'all if you're not down here, right? Even in like southern professional places, you're still good with a y'all. But like a New York professional, whatever, symposium, conference, whatever, I would not recommend. I would also recommend straying from contractions in general. Instead of saying I'm, say I am. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're writing instead of speaking. Not super necessary here though. Okay? Good question. What else you got? Vocalics. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's also what you're doing while you're saying it. Our other category is kinesics. This is you talking about body language. This is how you are communicating without speaking. Because your audience is looking at you while they're listening to you too. The whole time. So what you do before, during, and after all matters. Affects how your audience is going to view you as a speaker. All right?
All right.
Our first thing for kinesics is your personal appearance. I recommend dressing a half step up from whatever attire you're expecting your audience to be in. That's for credibility purposes only. It's just to make you seem more important than they are. For some reason, that's important when people want to listen to somebody. It's like, okay.
It's professional.
Yeah. And so, like this guy. This is technically business casual. Why can't it be business professional?
No tie?
He does not have a tie. I'm assuming that his audience is in regular business casual, right? They're probably in polos, slacks, skirts for the ladies. They might be in dresses, blouses, things like that. Easy peasy, but no jeans, no graphic tees, right? He's only a half step up because of the blazer, which is he's moving from business casual to business professional, but he did not complete the step up by adding the tie. You guys will never see me in a tie. It doesn't get that, all right? But every now and then, I half step up from you guys in regular casual. You guys aren't even in business casual, you're in street casual. So my half step up is just to like, not come in a hat. You know what I'm saying? And even then, if my hair's not done and it looks bad, I'm coming in a do-rag. And I'm gonna call it part of the outfit. I got a little collection, so I got different colors and stuff, so they match. It's really cute. But I also do not have to prove my credibility at this point to you all, do I?
Yeah.
Thanks. Right. But that's also why I opened by telling you I have degrees and I've been teaching this class. Here's my grade spread. And then you guys see me do all of the techniques that I'm imparting upon you and expecting of you. So you know that I know what I'm looking for. That way I don't have to just a half step up from y'all. But for an audience that you don't know, or an audience that you're not comfortable with, or you don't have any other way to prove your credibility beforehand, definitely go half step or full step up from them. All right? Cool. Your movement and positioning, where you are, how you move, how smoothly you move, whether you pace back and forth, whether you have on concrete shoes, whether you sway and swivot, whether you pace and pivot. Ooh, I'm on today, Chance, girl. Whether you pace and pivot, all of those things are also affecting the way your audience views you as a speaker. All right? Again, before, during, and after. If you trip on the way up, you better make a joke about it as the first line of your speech. Otherwise, they're joking on you in their head. Make fun of yourself before they can make fun of you. Reestablish some credibility by making sure that your movements are very intentional from that point forward. And please do not trip on your way out. Okay? You guys get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Your movement and positioning, also, you guys will have presentations. You guys will be using the board the same way that I do for your informative and your persuasive. Don't stand in front of the slides. And definitely do not speech in front of the slides. It's show and tell, not or. Imagine if I blocked the slides the whole time that I was teaching every time I taught. What would be the point? For it to be like a glorified backdrop? Please. I don't need that. I'm enough character on my own. The speech content is potent enough on its own. The delivery is engaging enough on its own. I don't need a backdrop. The point of the presentation is not only to help me remember what to say, but also to help you track where we are in the lecture. Make sense?
Yes.
Wonderful. The big two, because the first two were little. Gestures. These are your hands, your arm movements. What are you doing with them? Because it's always something that's like, what do I do with my hands? You use them to appear as natural reinforcements of the ideas you're aiming to convey. At the end of a sentence, when I've really just made a point and I go like this, y'all know what's up, all right? It's period. A reinforcement of what I just said. Natural, often spontaneous as well, because I don't plan my gestures before I get in here. You know what I'm saying? Like who does that? Like no, like that's ridiculous. When you're practicing, you should practice gesturing, sure. But some gestures, some movements will become more natural to you as you say certain things, as you know, like when I list, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but when I list things in a sentence, for some reason I like to run the list like through my fingers. I don't know what that is, but it works because it feels like a natural way to tell you guys that I'm listing certain things, right? Some reason, somehow, it also helps you guys retain things to memory. I think it's because you're adding a visual component to the audio component. And so now you got two significant encounters, bam, memory, just like that. Make sense?
Yes.
And you guys see me gesture all the time. You guys probably aren't paying conscious attention to it. But at no point are my gestures so ridiculous and so out and whatever that they're distracting you from listening to what I'm talking about. That's a lot, right? And never do I teach and just do like this too. And it's just a little. Imagine if I gave all of my lectures just like this, but I spoke the exact same way that I always do. How fucking boring would that be? Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. How boring would that be? How weird would that be for me to just, and that'd be all I got. With as dynamic, as theatric, as dramatic of a speaker as I am. It doesn't match, right? Doesn't match the content, doesn't match the delivery style. That was weird. I'm not doing that again. I'm not demonstrating that again. I'm just gonna explain it and that be that, all right? But yes, they should appear as natural and spontaneous reinforcements of whatever idea you're saying at the time, all right? If it helps you to pick out words, that's another thing that I do is I'll pick out certain words to make sure that I pronounce them right and I don't jumble them. That's another thing that gestures will help you do. They're just the visual, physical manifestation of the words that you're already saying. All right?
All right.
You have to gesture. Make them look natural, make them look spontaneous, make them look organic. They should be dynamic and appropriate to whatever you're saying. Okay? Cool?
Cool.
Wonderful. The last one, the biggest, eye contact. We've talked about this like, what, 3 times already? I
Yeah.
think. 80 to 90% of the duration of your speech, you should be making eye contact with somebody in the audience. Your eye contact should be wide. It should be varied. Shouldn't pick favorites, right? No favorite person to look at. Don't find that one comfortable person in the audience. What I do recommend, if eye contact is hard, is finding that favorite person in each section of the audience so that you do get to every piece of the room. Sure. There's only 10 of y'all. 11? 11. There's only 11 of y'all. It's only 10 of y'all. I don't care. It's only like 10 of y'all. It's real easy to just bounce real fast. That was 2 sentences. I made eye contact with all 11 of you just now. You just have to look around. It's engagement, it's interaction, but it's also confidence. We call the eyes the windows to the soul, right? Your audience can see the conviction. The same way they can hear it in your voice, the same way that they're going to see it in your gestures. They're going to feel it if you make eye contact and do all of those things as well. Don't you?
Yes.
Thank you. It's part of the point. To exemplify so that you know it's possible and so that you know it's effective. All of these techniques. All right? Confidence, conviction. Yes, and sincerity. Do you mean it? Do you believe it? Why should I trust anything you say if it doesn't even look like you trust yourself? Doesn't make sense. And when you're avoiding eye contact with somebody, like a significant other who you're trying to get caught in a lie, what's the first thing you tell them to do?
Look at me.
Look me in the eyes. Tell me you wasn't with her last night. Couldn't even do it. Couldn't even do it because he knew he was with her. That's the point of eye contact. Right? It's about belief. Do you believe you? And do I believe you? Eye contact will tell. All right? Gotta have it. Got to have it. If you're going to forego all of these other things, do it so that you make sure you hit the 80% eye contact. All right? Any questions about kinesics? Kinesics is about movement. It's about your body language. All good?
Yep.
Think you can do it?
Yes.
Yeah? Right, yeah. We gotta be careful with the crutches. Situation considered always, just like I said before with the vocalics part, right? I was like, dialects considered, speech impediments considered, all of those things when I'm grading. In the real world, nobody's gonna give a damn, you gotta be careful. But I got you here, because we're learning, we're practicing, we're honing skills and techniques, okay?
Okay.
Wonderful. What's the only way to get good?
Practice.
What's the only way to get better?
Practice.
And what's the only way to be the best?
Practice.
That's right. But how do I practice? Okay, well first, you need to care about whatever you're doing. If you don't care, you're not gonna give it the energy that it deserves. You're not gonna devote the time and the resources. That's why I say pick something that you care about to speak about. Pick something that you know, pick something that you love, something along those lines. So it's easier for you to get up here and talk with sincerity and conviction. All right? 2, it's all about the research. You guys have oral citations, which we will talk about at a later time. In both of these speeches, you will have to do a research assignment for your informative speech. We're going to talk about that timeline very shortly. Speaking of timeline. Okay. Excuse me. Once you've collected some research, you got your information, you have your own ideas, it's time to outline. Outlining is about getting those ideas and support for those ideas organized. Okay, I should probably talk about this first and then support it with this and this, and then that'll be a good way to segue into this thing, so I'll support it with this, and I have a story to tell here, and after I'm done with the story, I'll make sure that I introduce this next point, and that'll be that. Once you outline those ideas and you got it, it's time to write and recite. Iron out a little speech, right? You have ideas, you have it organized, now it's time to fill in whatever's left. The introduction and conclusion probably are what's left. And then a few transitional statements or connective statements to make sure that your ideas and the flow of logic in your body paragraphs make sense, right? And start reading. That's going to turn you from an idea outline into a preparation outline. Preparation outlines are full sentences. It's basically an organized first draft of your speech. And I mean every line of it, all right? Then it's time to speak with speaker notes, right? When you're doing that, you want to focus on the ideas. Remember, the speaker notes are supposed to remind you of the ideas that you want to convey because you can build the rest of the sentence in the moment, all right? As you speak with those speaker notes, you want to focus on those ideas and eventually you want to perform for an audience once you feel comfortable. You feel like the speech has been ironed out, you have a good flow of logic, everything makes sense. Okay, let me see what it sounds like to somebody else. Perform for that audience. I recommend recording yourself first, just so that you can see how you look, hear how you sound. Get that out the way, right? Because you're going to cringe, like we all do. Nobody likes seeing or hearing themselves recorded. So cringe, get it out the way. Get in front of somebody else, ask them what they think. Did that make sense? Did you learn something? Did I lose you at any point? Did anything I say go over your head as far as like an acronym or a vocabulary term? Were there any words that I used that you absolutely did not understand that were crucial to the speech? Blah, 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 blah. Get that feedback.
Like proofreading.
Yeah, exactly like proofreading. It's exactly what it's like. Except it's like going to your editor after you're done writing your book and running it through Grammarly, right? Because now it's not about the mechanics and the conventions anymore. Now it's about the understanding and the impact. At this point in the practice, right? Your Grammarly and stuff happens up here, all right? And eventually, if you have enough time, you have enough space, you have opportunity, I recommend doing a dress rehearsal. That doesn't really count for this class for real, because you don't have to dress up for the next two speeches, per se. But if you do have to have speaker notes and a slideshow, like and a presentation. So if you were practicing here without your presentation, this is where I would put the presentation up. Pull them up, have your people sit down, and actually go through the whole thing. When you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you do good. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't bum it up. Don't go in your pajamas. Not for the dress rehearsal. You can practice up here in your pajamas or whatever, in your athleisure. Put some clothes on, get right, set everything up, go for a test run with all the stops. If you have embedded videos, make sure the sound works, play your videos, see how it times, time yourself here as well, because you have time limits for the speeches in this class. So make sure that you fall in the time limits on enough practice runs where you're like, okay, it doesn't matter how slow, how fast, whatever happens, I'm in the 45-minute range, I'm good. Make sense?
Yes.
That dress rehearsal is going to determine whether you go back here to make changes or not. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions about practicing? Don't spend 2 hours writing the word the. It's a waste of time. You got it. All of this can happen in a day. Easily. Easily. You just have to devote the time and the energy, okay? All good?
Yes.
Any questions about how to practice?
No.
All right. This is for the real world. You won't have to do this here at all. This is kind of a takeaway skill, just because your book talks about it and I think it is useful, especially at the end of, especially for things like interviews, right? Like panel interviews, stuff like that. And then if you're ever called to speak at an event or something outside of class, you're probably going to have to deal with audience questions. So if you do have to deal with Q&A, I would recommend having possible answers ready already. All right? And practice delivering those answers when you go through your practice stuff and do your dress rehearsals and whatnot. Imagine somebody's going to ask a question about this or ask a question about that and be ready to answer it somehow, some way. All right? If you practice it enough, that means you have sat with it enough that you'll be ready if the question actually comes. Make sense?
Yes.
Exposure therapy. 2, listen carefully to the question. That way you answer the question that they're actually asking and not the question that you were thinking or hoping that they would ask. Right? We talked about critical thinking, we talked about critical listening and all of those skills, the active listening, right? So make sure that you do that when the person is asking a question from the audience. That way you really understand what they're going to talk about so that you don't have to ramble your way through an answer. You get to stay on track, you get to be honest, but you also need to be accurate, right? Make sure that you're actually giving the right answer. If you don't know, say you don't know. It's okay to be honest in that regard, right? And you want to be straightforward. Get there. That's a wonderful question. Thank you so much. And make sure you answer it to the whole audience because you don't know who else was thinking of that question and just wasn't brave enough to, or fast enough, because they might have been brave enough. You might have just saw this person first, right? Or fast enough to ask it themselves. Okay? Keep a positive attitude. Like I said, answer to everyone. No question is, oh, no, there are dumb questions, boo, for sure. But there are no questions that are disparaging, right? You can spin any question, even if somebody's trying to like underhandedly insult something that you said in the presentation. You know what? That's a wonderful question. Thank you for asking. I never thought anyone would ask. Yes, I did. Right? Now you just slap them in the face, right? They slapped them right back. They just tried to slap you. You got a quick little slap, right? Because I saw that coming, loser, right? And then you actually get to answer the question because you probably saw it coming, for real. Okay? Yeah. Any questions about audience questions?
No.
I don't know how to I don't know how to impart this any harder. There's a noticeable difference between someone who practiced their speech and someone who didn't, especially for the informative, because it's a jump from the special occasion speech. Informative persuasive isn't that much of a jump. They're kind of the same speech with a little rhetoric going, right? It's like the same speech with a little extra seasoning. But special occasion to informative, totally different mood, totally different expectations. Big jump, twice as many points, right? Practice is the only way that you're going to be comfortable enough to get up here and give an A-worthy speech. Okay? Let's talk about speaker notes real fast. So I gave this presentation speech at an event. I'm in the ballroom world. I don't know if any of you know what that is. This is not the foxtrot and the tango and the salsa, though. It's not that. Ballroom is the underground queer community's cultural artifact. It's a huge thing. Basically, the category I was competing in called to give a speech on why you feel like your father deserves to be Father of the Year. It's an award that we give out every year, right? So I wrote this speech. I said, one of our nation's greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, once said, any man can handle adversity. To truly test a man's character, give him power. Right? The Father of the Year award should go to a good leader who not only knows when to follow himself, but maintains a paternal nature in his position of power within his house. My personal father, Derek Juicy, exemplifies what it means to be a house father. Not only is he the Carolinas father of Juicy, but he is also the Carolinas father of Lux. His kids in both houses can speak to his steadfast leadership and endearing nature. His reach and impact extend past the Carolinas region to his deep roots in the Gulf Coast as well. In all of his endeavors, he embraces strength, ambition, and true care for those in his circles. He has a rich legacy of excellence, endurance, and intelligence that will do nothing but solidify his path to legendary status. Join me in congratulating the obvious Father of the Year, my father, Derek Juicy. Grand prize. I won that night very easily. Here are the speaker notes that I created, wrote on an index card for that exact speech. I took every sentence and I turned it into a bullet point. No complete sentences at all. Phrases, keywords, little symbols to help me remember what I was aiming to convey. That way, even if I didn't say the sentences that I wrote word for word, the points of each sentence would still come across. The Abe Lincoln quote I have memorized because it's just a fab quote. There's a game for for the PlayStation called Infamous that came out many years ago. My first ever platinum trophy. Man, what a game. That was one of the quotes on one of the loading screens. And I was just like, whoa. Like, that makes sense, right? First bullet, Abe Lincoln quote, adversity given power, right? One of our late great presidents, Abraham Lincoln, once said, to truly test a man's character, no, any man can handle adversity. To truly test a man's character, give him power, right? The Father of the Year award should go to a good leader who not only knows when to lead, knows when to follow as well, and maintains a paternal nature in his position of power. My father, my personal father, Derek Juicy, exemplifies what it means to be a house father. Not only is he the Carolinas father of the House of Juicy, he's also the Carolinas father of the House of Lux. And his kids in both houses can speak to his steadfast leadership and enduring nature in his role. His recent impact extends far past the Carolinas to his deep roots in the Gulf Coast as well. In all of his endeavors, he embraces strength, ambition, and true care for all of those in his circles. He has a rich legacy of excellence, endurance, and intelligence that would do nothing but solidify his path to legendary status. Ladies and gentlemen, and those who subscribe to neither, join me in congratulating the obvious Father of the Year, my father, Derek Juicy. You see how I created those sentences? And they were not word for word exactly the same. Absolutely not, right? But because I had enough from each sentence, and I have what will help me remember what to say in between, I was able to create sentences similarly enough to the original to get those same points across. That's the point of speaker notes. And I recommend that you write your speech before making your speaker notes. Solidify the speech itself and make sure that you have all of your ideas that you want to convey straight up, strict the way you want them. Then create speaker notes that will help remind you of what you want to say for each line. For your presentations, I recommend that you split your speaker notes in half and put half of your notes on the physical notes so that you only have to use 2 or 3 note cards, and put the other half as the bullet points or whatever information and visuals you want on your slideshow. That way you're not bouncing back and forth wondering if you've repeated yourself or not. There's no room to repeat yourself. Part 1 is here, part 2 is there, every slide. Make sense?
Yes.
People don't usually follow that tip. I'm going to see if you guys do. All right. We would do this activity here, but we only have a few minutes, and I want to let you guys go early because I got here late. So let's talk about the informative speech. The informative speech. Can somebody read this first bullet for me, please? Anybody?
You deliver a 45-minute speech live in class or recorded in front of a live audience, informing them about the topic of your choice.
Did you guys get that?
Yes.
Wonderful. Somebody else do bullet number 2, please.
I got it. No. To do this, you will create a purpose statement, conduct a library research assignment, write a full sentence outline that includes 3 or more cited sources, create a digital visual aid, give your speech with limited notes, integrating the visual aid whilst orally citing 3 or more sources, conduct a self-evaluation after watching your recorded speech.
6 aspects got to be done for your informative speech. All right? You will deliver a 4 to 5 minute speech, live in class or recorded in front of a live audience, but you all will be live in class. You guys will have the option. I will split you guys up into teams on who will be live in class and who will be recorded. Informing them about the topic of your choice. Doesn't have to be related to communication at all. It can be whatever topic. You're just going to be teaching. I'm recording the laptop. Sorry, y'all weren't here for that. Ha 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 ha. My Monday and Wednesday class I missed yesterday, so I'm about to push all of their things forward a day and just give them this video to watch. To do this, you will create a purpose statement. That's your topic. We're going to do the potential thesis, all that good stuff we'll talk about shortly. Conduct a library research assignment. You got to find 5 sources. One of them has to be physical. There's a worksheet for you to fill out and everything to start your research for your speech. Write a full sentence outline that includes 3 or more cited sources. Those are your oral citations. We will talk about those next class, I'm pretty sure, as well. It's just a way for you to verbally give credit to information from another source. If it's not your idea, you got to give credit where it's due because of plagiarism and things like that. All right? Create a digital visual aid. That's fancy talk. What is that referring to? make you a PowerPoint. Alright? Give your speech with limited notes, integrating the visual aid whilst orally citing 3 or more sources. Basically the rubric of the informative speech. Gotta have the presentation, gotta have 3 oral citations, gotta have speaker notes. Alright? And conduct a self-evaluation after watching your recorded speech. You guys knew you were gonna have to do that. Alright? That's the informative speech. Let's look at the timeline. Your topics are due on the 5th. Think of topic ideas. Next class, we're going to do topic vetting live. And then you'll have the day to come up with your potential thesis statement, all that good stuff. We'll talk about the submission format for your purpose statements and your topics next class. Your library research assignment is due 6 days later. It should only take you a couple hours. Find one book or magazine or reference work article or something like that for your physical. Google for the rest. All right? Again, it's a worksheet that you'll fill out. We'll talk about that probably next class. 4 days after your library research assignment is due, I'm expecting your full sentence outline. Having your library research assignment already done will make that so much easier because that is all of your research and information there. All you have to do is include your own ideas, hammer it out into an organized outline. All right? Speech delivery days will be, the first day will be 2 days later. If we don't finish all of them in one day, you guys absolutely won't. If you don't finish them all in one day, we have a second day dedicated to that, which is the 22nd. Regardless of which day you give your speech, the evals are due the day after the second speech day, period. All right? Monday, Wednesday, your deadlines will be appropriately pushed back to match the Monday, Wednesday timeline, or schedule, excuse me, but the online assignments will be due the same day as the Tuesday, Thursday classes assignments were due. That's my apology for missing yesterday's class. Any questions about the timeline?
I actually do have a question.
Yeah, talk to me.
The library research assignment due, so what you're trying to tell me is that we need to have one like physical resource for our speech and then the rest, like whatever, can like be online. Is that what you said? Like,
Well, not for the speech, for the library research assignment. Library research assignment is going to require 5 sources, because it's also building research skills and blah, 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 right? Citations, making oral citation practice, all of that is included in it. It's a worksheet that should take you like a day to do, if that.
Okay.
But yes, you do have to have one physical source for your library research assignment. You do not have to use your physical source as one of your oral citations in your speech.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
With the physical source, could it be like a audio recording that you have from someone in your family who's a historian?
Yes.
Okay.
That was extremely specific.
So it couldn't be like an article we found online.
No. If you found it online, no. If you can find the physical version, yes.
So we could find something online, but if we find it in the library as well, that would be easy.
But don't tell me that you found it online first. Yours, library research assignment, one of the aspects for all the sources, for each of the 5 sources, is an APA style citation. Your APA style citation will tell me if it's physical or digital. Does that make sense? Work. Because they're cited differently, the citations look different. APA style, we are grown, we don't use MLA anymore. Everything's APA. All right? Any other questions about the timeline? All good?
Yeah.
You guys have speech ideas in mind?
Yeah.
That's okay, save them, we'll talk about it next class. This is the rubric. You'll look at it. It's attached to the self-evaluation assignment. It's 150 points. The new things are the 3 oral citations and the slides. You can have 3 to 5 slides. Remember we talked about vocal delivery being broken down into more things. Your nonverbal, your kinesics are broken down here as well. Your organization is a little tougher. Instead of just intro, body, conclusion, you have to have a clear thesis and you have to have transitions. Your audience-centered content is a little more fleshed out. Your jargon versus layman's is there. Your figurative language is there, right? Otherwise, we're including the same things from the special occasion speech. And your time limit is 4 to 5 minutes instead of 1 to 2. Any questions about the rubric? Feel free to email me. Again, you can take a look at it attached to the self-evaluation assignment on Rackspace. All right? Any questions at all? Info speech, Great so far. Feedback from special occasion speech rubrics. Class. Things like that. Cool. Homework. Knowledge checks 3 and 4 are due tonight, as well as ECT number 1, which is on chapter 12. Chapter 12 is about language and whatnot, so you have a few, it's kind of like an English assignment. It's really cute. Really cute. I think it's like 3 questions. Don't even worry about it. But this is on Brightspace. You can access these via Brightspace to take you to McGraw-Hill Connect. The ECTs, remember, are at the end of their associated chapters in the textbook. You do not answer them in the textbook, though. You do your text submission on Brightspace based on the question that's at the end of the textbook. Okay?
Okay.
The instructions are on the ECT assignment as well. The instructions are ridiculously clear. Like they'll tell you like where to go and all that stuff too. If you have any issues with this, please just email me real fast. All right?
All right.
Next class, chapter 7 is on research. Chapter 15 is on information. Speaking informatively, informative speech styles, blah, 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 blah. All right? Take a look at those. This section, these are the on-page numbers, not the navigator page numbers. I forgot to change it, and I don't know what the navigation pages are. I apologize in advance. But when you see page 122, while you're reading on the page, you can stop there. All right? Come up with some info topic ideas. We'll talk about them during Topic Vetting Live. That says 4-2. For you guys, it's 4-3, I'm pretty sure, but that's okay. All right? All good?
Yes.
Free to go. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Monday, Wednesday, I will be emailing you guys so that you guys know what's going on here.